All right, we are coming to you live on Valentine's Day for 2020 Prime Sports NASCAR, and Eric Smith is live from Daytona International Speedway. Looks like it's a little overcast. How's the weather, and how are things going here on this Friday?
It is very windy. Definitely been overcast all day. It feels cold only because it was 84, I believe, yesterday. And here, this Indiana boy, that it's, I think, 17 degrees at my house today, and it's in the 60s here. It feels cold to me, but it's still in the 60s.
That's nice.
It's very windy, but I'll take it. Hey, it's better than snow. So we're about to see a race here a little bit tonight for the Truck Series, their season opener, and I'm excited that Speed Weeks is really getting fully into swing here now.
All right, Eric. So the clash was crazy with there were like 5 cars standing at the end. The fact that Eric Jones was able to win with a dilapidated car was humorous. We got kind of back to normal racing at the duels with Logano winning and Byron winning, and I hope that other drivers will learn something from what William Byron did in the race. Even though he said after the race that he was going to wait until the last lap, he just, he found an opening. He thought it was a good time to go. He went with 4 laps to go, 3 laps to go, and he was able to hold everybody off. Jeff Gordon was talking about, it's probably too early. And this is something we have talked about for years. These drivers have got to get it through their heads to stop waiting until the last lap to try to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, he even said he started watching old movies and film of what a race car driver could to figure out how to make that last move. And I'm glad he did it at the right time. And I think that shows, especially during these speed weeks on Sunday, that I don't think you can wait till the last lap, because odds are there is going to be a wreck on that last lap.
And don't you want to be out front? Racing. I mean, we have learned.
Yes, you don't want to be collected.
That's right. Yes. And what has happened over the years, more often than 10, 20 years ago, when it seemed like you wanted to be second or even third or fourth or fifth, now over the last 5 years or so, you want to be in front. So why not get out in the front as soon as you can?
Yeah, because it's going to be I think what we're going to see, talked to a couple drivers yesterday. We heard Logano say it in his press conference after his win in the first duel, that Sunday's race is going to be a lot of the regular draft, but also that tandem drafting, like we saw Denny Hamlin do to Eric Jones, where he pushed him all the way around the track, and he had 2 severely wrecked race cars cross the finish line first and second, albeit Hamlin was a lap down. But that's going to be the winning way around this race on Sunday. But you can't push too long because your car could overheat. Like the Chevys, the bumpers don't line up very well. We've seen crashes because of that. So you've got to get in the right spot at the right time. And if you wait too long, you could be the one that's going to get wrapped up in that wreck. So why not push, get to the front? Plus, you got to think the driver that's doing the pushing, they're where Almirola and Newman and Jimmy Johnson and those guys last night, they want to win the race. They don't want to help somebody else win the race. So why push somebody the last lap? And now you're cutting yourself short of making your move to win. So I think it's going to ramp things up. Those last 5 laps in Sunday's race are going to be crazy. I think we're going to see a lot of wrecks. And I think it's going to be kind of survival of the fittest, who's going to be there at the end. And why not be up front? Because if you're kind of caught third on back, you're probably going to get caught up in something.
Because even though it's a points race, this is like a one-off. They don't care about finishing second. They'd rather either wreck to try to win or win the race.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's a Daytona 500. Almirola said last night that, yes, I got an assist tonight, but let's hope I'm the one getting the basket on Sunday, not the one pushing somebody else across the finish line. It doesn't matter if it was Kyle and Kurt, they're brothers. It doesn't matter if it was father-son with like Joe Nemechek, John Hunter Nemechek. Granted, Joe Nemechek's not in the Cup race. They're both in the truck they're in the truck race tonight. But you're not going to push somebody else across the finish line. This is the Daytona 500. It's got a announced sellout already. 101,000 seats have been sold. The infield has had a lot of tickets and camping spaces sold. Daytona's president, the Daytona International Speedway president, said yesterday this is the biggest crowd that they've had in years. President Trump's going to be here. The purse is the biggest it's ever been. you want to win this race. You don't want to finish second. So you're not going to help somebody for too long. So you might as well get in a good position to push the guy you're pushing out to the lead, and then you want to make your move. So that's why I think we're going to see a lot of tandem drafting towards the end of Sunday's race.
As far as what we learned in past history with drivers who have won the Clash, won the duels, and what they could do with the 500, or even a team situation, I don't know. I haven't really noticed any particular trends. So if anybody out there is thinking, well, just because you won the duels or just because you won the Clash, that should have any impact on the 500, history says no.
Exactly. Yeah, there's not going to be anybody that's won races here this week or speed weeks that you could take anything from it and put it towards the 500. The Clash, yes, it was sunny, but it's a little bit cooler than what it's going to be on Sunday. Last night's races, all the drivers kept saying, don't put any stock into what you see. The track was cooler, as obviously night. It had more grip. They can have more downforce. It's not going to run like that on Sunday. So you can't really put anything you saw and think, oh, Joey Logano and William Byron won the duels, so those automatically think those are the top two favorites. No, it doesn't work that way. You rarely see that trend work. I mean, for the Clash, for example, 6 times in the Clash's history has the driver that won the Clash gone on to win the Daytona 500. So the odds are not in your favor. And another weird trend is it hasn't happened since 1994-95. Has a driver won the Daytona 500 in 2 straight years. So Hamlin, to me, looks racy, but the trends are saying that he's not going to win either. Other than that, front row starters, the pole sitter has not won this race since 2000. They've only got one top 5 since then. And the car that starts second hasn't won this race since 1993. So you could kind of take that as you will, take the front row starters and say, well, you've got bad luck. I don't think I'm going to take you according to trends. You could take Hamlin out of that, take Eric Jones out of that. But past that, I think it's anybody's race.
All right. Now, before we get into our picks for the 500, let's also talk about our playoff picks because we have that available up on the website at Prime Sports Network. Talked a little bit about it with CJ the other day. So I wanted to take a look and find out what we all agreed upon, what we did not agree upon. And there were only 4 drivers in which, actually, 12 out of the 16 drivers we all agreed upon in the playoffs. The only 4 drivers that we had disagreements on were Clint Bowyer. Eric, you and I had Clint Bowyer making it, but CJ did not. But you and I had Clint Bowyer just kind of, one playoff round and out. Also, we had Buescher was a CJ pick only. You and I did not go with Buescher. CJ and I did not go with DiBenedetto, but you did. And Ryan Newman, you did not go with Newman, but I went with Newman, and CJ went with Newman as well. Interesting enough, the only one driver that we disagreed upon that we had making it out of the round of 16 was when you took DiBenedetto to make it to the round of 12.
Yes, I think he will. I feel like he's going to win a race at some point this year, maybe even Sunday. He looked good in the duels. Granted, I said you can't take much out of that, but he's drafty here. He's always done good here in Daytona. If he doesn't win here, I feel like he'll win somewhere during the regular season. He's always outkicked his coverage, if you want to say, put it in a football term. His teams haven't been the greatest, and he's always propelled them to better than what they should have been. Now he's with the Wood brothers. They've got a Penske alliance. Think of that as a 4th Penske car per se, kind of how Levine family's car that Christopher Bell drives is essentially a 5th Gibbs car. DiBenedetto is like that with Penske. We see what they can do. They made the playoffs with Paul Menard a few years ago, and they were close last year of doing so. But I think DiBenedetto will get the Wood brothers' 100th victory at some point during the 26 race regular season. And then in the first round, you have Bristol, and DiBenedetto is very, very, very good at Bristol. We saw what he did last year. So I would think that he could be an upset favor, I guess, or upset flavor in the Bristol race in the first round. So that's why I took him to win then and make it to the second round. And then I think when the cream starts rising more and more to the top, they catch up to him. But top 12 finish in the points would be great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I hope so. He's on my fantasy team. And we'll be talking more about. I stole him from you before you had an opportunity to take him.
I was going to take him, but you got him right before me. So it's a good pick.
So we'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. Okay, now we all had Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Kevin Harvick in the Final Four. You had Harvick winning it all. I had Hamlin winning it all. So interesting that we had all agreed that 3 drivers are not only going to, we all believe, make it, but also return to the Final Four, something that has happened over the last few years, where we have had what I think 3 out of the last couple of years, we've had 3 drivers minimum return to the Final Four.
Yes, and the only reason I didn't go, because to me, I thought it could have been a carbon copy of last year through Truex in there, but I'm just a little wary of that crew chief.
We all
change
are,
and see
yes.
how long it. That's the only reason I didn't put him there. But you got to look at Kyle and Harvick. The Championship 4 format's been around 6 years. They've made it there 5. So they were so dominant last year. The car, the package is virtually the same. The shorter tracks and road courses are the only difference, but I think that's actually going to help them further. So those 2, I think, no drop off. Denny Hamlin, I feel like last year kind of showed who he is with minimal changes. Again, I feel like he can be there. And then Truex, the only reason, as I said, that I didn't put him as my 4th, where I would have, is because he's been that 3rd these last few years. He's finished the top 2 of the final point standings each of the last 3 years. It's just, I feel like that crew chief change is going to be major for him. So took him out, and to me, it'd be between Blaney, Logano, Larson, and Elliott for that final spot or not Homestead, Phoenix now, but it's going to be a 4-way race for that spot, which would be a good one.
Actually, you had Elliott, and CJ has Elliott as the other driver in the Final Four. I had Blaney in the Final Four, but it does sound like you had, as you said, that you were between maybe Elliott or Blaney making it in, and Blaney's actually your championship sleeper. Of course, he's my championship sleeper as well, since I have him in the Final Four. And CJ went out on a limb, a little bit of a limb, but he went ahead and picked Chase Elliott to win the championship, which would be great for the sport. But I think we all have this agreement that with Elliott and Blaney on the cusp or there in Phoenix in the Final Four, that maybe this is the year that we start seeing these younger drivers start to kind of break through.
Yeah, we saw it last year. The victories weren't quite there yet for them, just because Kyle and Harvick and Truex and Hamlin and those type of veterans are so good. But the younger guys they're creeping further and further to the top. The end of the season was great for them. Throw Byron in there, and Eric Jones. They started closing out races, getting top 10s, inching closer and closer and closer to the front. So yes, I think they're almost there. I don't think you're going to get Kyle and Harvick away from victory lane anytime soon, but if they can sprinkle some more victories in there, again, we saw in the playoffs, it doesn't matter what you do in the first 26, it matters what you do in the last 10. Chase Elliott's a prime example of that. He's made the round of 8 3 straight years, so I think he at least gets there this year and finally gets a chance to get to the championship 4, which would make the fan base very happy, since he's the 2-time defending most popular driver in the sport.
All right, now as far as the driver out of your 16, which driver, let's see, you have Bowman, Boyer, Kurt Busch, and Jones were your round of 16 drivers. So which one of those drivers was your 16th driver to make it in, and who was your 17th driver that did not make it in?
So I went Bowman was my 16th. I don't think he wins this year, but I do think he comes close a few times. So I think he does a good enough job to get in, but it's going to be close. I think we're going to see a lot of different winners this year.
I have Bowman making. I have Bowman making the round of 8. I like Bowman this year.
Wow! Yeah.
I think he's ready to take that next step. I really do.
The only thing I do too, I think he's there. The only thing that concerns me with him is it's a contract year for a lot of drivers. He's one of them, and the funding isn't there. How bad does that hurt his race car? Do they put more resources to the other 3 because they've got sponsors? So that scared me a little bit. But he has the potential. It's there. He closed out. He did really good at the start of the playoffs, faded a little bit as it went on. So I wouldn't be shocked. He's definitely a guy that could make it to the round of 12 or round of 8. But, I had him as my 16th. My first driver out, I had Almirola in 17th. I think he barely misses. I think he needs to win a race to get in, and I just don't think he gets it done in the regular season to get a win to advance to the playoffs.
None of us went with Almirola. None of us went with Ricky Stenhouse, Austin Dillon, or Bubba Wallace. Those are some of the notable names that we decided not to go with. As far as the rookies, just based on their situation, not who you believe might be the more talented rookie, but just based on their situation, who do you think has the best chance of winning Rookie of the Year?
On the surface, I think it's pretty obvious Christopher Bell being essentially a fifth Gibbs car, but I'm going to go with Cole Custer and the Stewart-Haas Racing Camp. They've shown that they've got good cars. It took them half a year to get their cars rolling because, as they all said towards the end of last year, that they came out of the gates wrong. They guessed wrong as far as setups and everything they did. It took a half a year to undo it and get the notes taken and implement them to get them going towards the right direction. And once they did, we saw even Daniel Suarez in that ride start to take off. So I think that ride is going to be a good one. The only reason I say I don't say Bell is he's never ran a Cup race before, and that's significant in the event that these cars, they run a different body, where the Xfinity guys run that different kind of sheet metal. Their panels, you can get in the wall, you can change panels. It runs different. So this car, the Cup car, doesn't. It doesn't have, the Xfinity car doesn't have the digital dash like the Cup cars do. So getting on and off pit road is going to be a little different. Plus, and he's mentioned this, he's never run a race longer than 300 miles before. You got to think Sunday's race is going to be 200 extra miles than he's ever raced. As his conditioning, fitness levels, granted, these guys are all in great shape now, but it takes a lot out of you to run 500 miles. So he said that's going to be a big adjustment for him. He's a sprint car midget driver by nature. They run 30, 50 lap features, not 500 miles. He said that's going to be a huge adjustment for him. Plus, I feel like his driving style is going to have the biggest hit out of anything. He's like Kyle Larson. He likes a loose race car, run the top of the track, run against the wall. Well, we saw how long it took Kyle Larson last year to adjust it. You can't do that with this new package. It's lower horsepower, more downforce. So I feel like that's going to hurt him more than the other ones. And Cole Custer, it should favor him. So in my opinion, I think Cole Custer's got the best shot at Rookie of the Year.
Okay, now, as far as the Daytona 500, went over all our picks. Now, CJ's only taking, he's going with 3 drivers. He's going with Kyle Busch as his favorite to win, and he's never won the 500. He's also going with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Austin Dillon as his sleepers. Now, it looks like to me your top picks are actually going to be Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano as far as the big boys. You're also taking a couple of drivers that are considered kind of long shots that I also like, Ryan Newman and William Byron. You also have taken the Dillon brothers and DiBenedetto as some other long shots in this race. Talk about the number one driver. Who is your number one pick?
Right now, Logano, which I know is coincidence that I just said that don't put anything from the duels into Sunday's race, but I do think he's got a fast race car. I'm not basing that pick off of his
Well, it
duels.
doesn't mean he can't win. It just means
just means I wouldn't put a stock in it. Yeah, you just got to look at his last 4 Daytona 500s: 6th, 6th, 4th, 4th. He won it in 2015. Fords have shown that they can work well together. I think he'll have a good race car on Sunday. He's starting up front. I feel like he can avoid some carnage that might happen behind him. He's aggressive. It's proven that it's worked here. So I think he's my favorite out of this whole group. And I'll put Denny Hamlin a close second. I know I said nobody's repeated since 94, 95, which was Sterling Marlin. But looking at his stats, he's finished since, well, you got to go back 6 years. 2nd, 4th, 1st, 13th, 3rd,
That's incredible. With the luck of this race, it's incredible.
Yeah, and he feels like he keeps getting better and better. He's learning more and more. And he said on the media day a few days ago that once he feels the hairs on his neck stand up and he notices that that's the time that he needs to get out of the draft and get out of harm's way. So I think he can do that. The only thing that scares me about him is the Toyotas. They've got very low car count compared to everybody else. Chevrolet's got 19 drivers. Yep. Ford's got 16, and Toyota's got 5. We saw last night and how the manufacturers working together can work against somebody that doesn't have much manufacturer drafting help. Denny Hamlin tried last night. He just didn't get any help, and he faded to the back in the end. Same with Kyle Busch, same way. That if there's only 5 of them and 10 Fords and 6 Chevys up front in the end, they don't have strength in numbers to contend. So that scares me with them. But if he can latch onto somebody and get some help, he's going to be up front in the end for sure.
I probably would lean towards Harvick as my number one favorite to win this race. Bowman will probably be my top sleeper. But again, we both like Byron and Newman as sleepers in this race. Once again, same thing. Just because Byron won a duel doesn't mean that that's the reason we grabbed him in this race. But it's not a negative. It's a positive that he looked good. And he also has Chad Knaus. He's got Hendrick. And that's why I kind of put Bowman, Byron, and Jimmy Johnson in there. I stayed away from Elliott because he just seems to get in all sorts of bad luck for whatever reason in this race. So until he actually finishes one of these races without any incidents, then maybe I'll go his way. But I decided, you know what, I like what I've seen so far and from Hendrick, not only this week, but over the last few years.
Yeah, they're getting better. They put a lot of emphasis in their super speedway program because we've seen in the past they've qualified really well. I mean, last year they qualified 1, 2, 3, 4. They just don't have the handling in the draft, and we saw that they put a lot of emphasis in that lately. I mean, Jimmy Johnson. I mean, my goodness, his last 7 starts, or 8 now, if you want to put it on super speedways. 7th in Dega a couple years ago, 1st, 8th, 9th, 33rd, 3rd, and 38th last year, counting the non-points paying races, and then he finished 2nd in the duel last night. He had a good car in the Clash, so he's been running really well in super speedways lately. He's the sentimental guy. I mean, you got to look at about his last 500. Plus, this is being talked about a lot, but numbers and trends favor him. His first 500 win, 2006. His second 500 win, 2013. That's a 7-year gap. Well, maybe his third can come in 7 years later in 2020 in his last one.
Nice.
So trends are on his side. He's got a good race car. I feel like they're going to be much better. My only concern with them is do their bumpers line up, because we've seen Chevy guys talk about so far down here that they're not locking good enough. So if they do, good enough. I think he's going to be up front. Byron, same way. He was great in July race last year. He was great in the Daytona 500. He just got caught up in an incident. If he can stay out of harm's way, he makes a move like he did last night, he can definitely be up there. And I agree on Chase Elliott. You got to look at his Daytona 500 finishes, 37th, 14th, 33rd, and 17th. So finish the Daytona 500 and we'll talk. But prior to that, and then maybe it just scares me a little bit.
And look, I think another advantage for Hendrick is going to be these guys are a year older. So Byron, Bowman, Elliott, they're older, especially if we favor guys like Byron and Bowman more in this specific race. So it's just that, 1 or 2 more races, that means a lot. And then throw in 1 or 2 more speed weeks. So it all helps. And that also will make it easier for Jimmy to win now that he can rely on his partners more than he probably couldn't have over the last couple of years.
Exactly. And you got to think, now he's one that if you're running second to him, kind of like if you're running second to a Dale Earnhardt, a Jeff Gordon, a Dale Jr. coming to the end, with this being his last 500, you might want to help push him to a win, because not only is his car going to cross the finish line first, you're going to be right behind and going to be, all those marketing videos and pictures. And so you're right there too, and you're the guy that helped Jimmy Johnson win his final Daytona 500. So I would want to latch onto his bumper and push him just for the veteran presence, and he's going to know what moves to make at the right time.
And this may be the first and, of course, the last Daytona 500 where he's going to get a majority of crowd support.
Yes, I can think that there's going to be a lot of cheers for him instead of boos this Sunday.
This is interesting. Only one upset the last 8 years since Trevor Bayne won back in 2011. That was Austin Dillon in 2018. That's a little surprising that we haven't really had the big upsets lately at the Daytona 500.
No, and it seems like the big three have won a lot. In speed weeks here, out of the last 29 races, so you're going to count the Clash, the duels in that, since 2013, Hendrick, Gibbs, and Penske have won 26 of them. So it just seems like they've got, for some reason, the right package down here. But 3 of the last 4 Daytona 500s, we've had a last lap pass for the win. And 2 of them, they've, like Kurt Busch and Austin Dillon, the only lap they led that day was the last one. So can we see another upset like that? It's certainly possible. Austin could be there. He runs great here. If you go back to last July, he led over 40 laps. He got the car to beat. He just got caught up in a crash there in turn 1 before the rain fell. And then the Clash, he had a great car. He had no drafting partners to push him to the win in the end. And even in his duel, he was right up there last night running. So I would not be shocked if he's there towards the end to win this race. But his little brother right there, he's got an RCR car with Jermaine. That's an Alliance team. Ty Dillon, as my notes are blowing around here, he finished 6th in the 2018 Coke Zero Sugar 400, 6th in the Daytona 500 last year, and 4th in the Coke Zero Sugar 400 last July. That's three straight top 6 finishes at Daytona. And if you look at his odds right now, 66 to 1. Why not?
Hey.
So there's your upset
Sure, why not?
right there if he can make it happen.
Absolutely.
So, and he was there in the duel last night. He was ran good with Tyler Reddick, so I can see him being up front again tomorrow when it counts.
All right. Well,
tomorrow. I keep saying tomorrow. I'm used to the race week and being tomorrow. Sunday when it counts.
That's as good as a long shot as you can come up with based on those stats.
Yes.
All right, Eric. So what's going on as far as the website, racereviewonline.com, and, of course, you have your Instagram account, so I'm assuming you're going to have some fun with that this weekend.
Yep, going to have some fun. We got a betting preview coming out tomorrow, the finishing touches of it, complete Daytona 500 preview coming out tomorrow as well. And we're also going to have some Instagram stories here from Pit Lane and the Media Center of some drivers, some cars. The Cup practice starts here in about a half an hour. Then you got the truck race tonight, Xfinity race tomorrow, and Daytona 500 Sunday. We'll have a bunch of write-ups, interviews, all that kind of stuff at Race Review Online, and on my Instagram, Eric Race Review Online, and also my Twitter at Eric_Race Review.
And the handicapping, is that also in conjunction with covers?
It is. Yep, it'll be in conjunction over there. Also was on the Sharp 600 with them a couple days ago, and we got a good analysis up on their site for the Daytona 500 with the betting preview, and I'll have all that in my article tomorrow.
Eric, appreciate it. It's just the beginning of what hopefully will be a great weekend. Can't say I'm excited about tomorrow's race because you look at all the top drivers from Xfinity have all come up to the NASCAR Cup Series now, and since you have no Cup Series drivers in the Xfinity race tomorrow, that's like a known. I mean, besides Allgaier and a couple, it's like, who are these guys?
Yeah, it's kind of a changing of the guard. So they always say names are made here. Well, let's see some names.
Anybody, give me a name.
Noah Gregson's going to be one that's going to be kind of an up-and-comer. He's kind of in the running. This will be his second year with Junior Motorsports. He may be in the running for that 48 seat next year with that alliance with Hendrick. So he's one to watch this year. Austin Syndrich, who's Tim Syndrich's son, running for Penske his second year. Watch out for him. Ross Chastain, he's with Colleague. I would not be shocked if he won tomorrow. He's going to be a name that's going to be there. And, of course, Justin Allgaier is always up front. So I would start with those 4. Oh, Chase Briscoe. That's another one I want to get. He's an Indiana guy running for Stuart Haas, second year, rookie of the year last year with them. Kind of taking all of what Cole Custer did. They went from 2 cars to 1. So he's got all that combined equipment all at his disposal. I would think he's going to be a championship for a sleeper, if not potentially a champion. So those are 5 good drivers I'd start with.
Eric, appreciate it. No track next week because they're out west.
Out west.
So we'll see you back in studio.
Next week we'll be back in the studio.
Thanks a lot, Eric. Great job. Enjoy the racing this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.